Now's the time where I bring you another nerdy concept from my background in the wonderful world of finance. We're going to talk about optionality, and when you hear that word, at first you're going to think, oh, I don't know exactly what that means, describe it, and you might want to move on and click to the next section. But the more you internalize this section, the more you'll realize that there's a different framework you should use as an innovator for accepting and evaluating new ideas. This is a world that's not about what's profitable and not profitable. It's about thinking about the choices that set you up for incremental success. Optionality is something I like to describe by thinking about our own careers. Somehow after school I ended up in the wonderful industry of credit cards, but that's not what I really wanted, to be honest. I wanted something different or more creative or fun, and many of you work at all sorts of different organizations, but how did you get there? Because I'll tell you what happened for me. I was trying to pick a major. I liked marketing, I also liked finance, I liked psychology, and then one or two things push things over the limit, and pretty soon you've decided on one, and for me that ended up being finance. Then you get your first job. You pick the job that pays $2,000 more than the other job, and you think, that's okay, I can get in the other industry at any point in time. It's just my first job. But then you get a promotion, you start doing well, and you present your big idea. Maybe you have a life change that happens at the same time. The salary becomes too much to give up, and maybe at this point, if you switch jobs, you stay in the same industry. So at the time, I'm stuck in credit cards, and you're in whatever industry that you've chosen. And all of us can think about the 3 or 5 decisions, or even haphazard decisions, that led us to the point that we're in now. And it's interesting because it shows us that we make fewer big choices than we actually think. Optionality is the concept that you can make choices that open up more options in the future. As a guy that was stuck in credit cards, well, I could go back to school and get a degree. I could go to conferences. I could go to learn what my clients were up to. I could try to network with people in different industries, or I could see where my transferable skills might work. There are all sorts of things you could do that are choices that open up more options in the future. So right now, in a time period of chaos, when you're trying to think about how to reinvent and what to do next, optionality becomes one of the most important concepts to think about. It's the concept that you're actually not trying to make choices based on profitability or non-profitability. What you're trying to do instead is think about what are investments of time and resources that you're making that actually open up your options in the future. And I'll give you a couple fun ways that some of our clients and friends along the way have shown us that you could employ to tactically create optionality in your organization. Debbie Amato is the Deputy Chief Technologist from NASA, and for Debbie, she believes you can get more optionality if you try to tackle the departmental silos that can happen. And her problem is that in all of her different groups, they are not necessarily sharing different ideas. So she sees her goal, career-wise, as trying to create collisions that bring different groups together in order to allow them to foster multiple perspectives. One of the ways that she does that is she hosts a poster session where everyone comes and brings their best idea, and she talks about how a new form of science was invented by 2 scientists who were randomly standing next to each other in the poster session. Brian Copeland is the VP Retail and Innovation at Staples, and if you're on his team there and you're embarking on a big exploratory project, he is worried about your fear of failure. And his solution for getting people over that problem is that he will give you a written permission slip to fail, which means we all believe in you. And at the end of the year, Brian will actually host his Penguin Awards, where you could earn a Penguin Award, meaning you're one of the people that took the first leap in icy waters, leading your team to new waters. At Adidas, Mick Lucier, who's the Senior Director of Future Running, had a similar problem with failure, but for him it was that people don't always move on when an idea doesn't work. They don't always move fast enough to the next one. And imagine you're on his team, you make a new running shoe, you spend a year working on it, and now it doesn't work out. Well, you might be tempted to cross the street and get a job at Nike. You might still wiggle that idea into your new projects. And so in order to put that idea to rest, he will host a project funeral to celebrate the success that you had in your learnings, even though the end result wasn't what you'd hoped for. We had Malcolm Gladwell on our Future Festival stage in Toronto, and when he was there, he talked about how his problem, and many people's problem, he believed, is seeing multiple perspectives. And so in order to push himself to see other perspectives, he will try to prove himself wrong. If a person recommends a restaurant to him, and he goes to the restaurant, and he has a bad meal, he thinks it must have been his choice. He will repeat one more visit, ordering something different. He has a strong political belief, and that means you would think you know which news channel he listens to, but he listens to the opposite news channel because he wants to try to understand their perspective. Oh, I got to interview Richard Branson, and I got that lovely picture. Random story, the way you get that is that you've got your phone, you're so excited, hey Richard, can I take a picture? And then a handler comes by and swats it out of your hand and goes, no selfies with Mr. Branson. But I got that one, so sort of proud of that. In my interview with Richard, he said his problem is making sure that he's inspiring ongoing innovation across all of the different teams, and his solution for doing that is to inspire passion. And if you're passionate about your role, then you will indeed bring up more ideas, creating optionality for the company. Steve Wozniak's problem at Apple was people were too focused on short-term results. And sometimes you need people to brainstorm things that are out of scope and think a little deeper. So he would actually have brainstorming meetings and lunches where you weren't allowed to talk about what was in scope. You were only allowed to talk about the further distant future. At Hallmark, Christie, the problem that she had was a desire for making sure that everything Hallmark does is best in class. And she's got 1,000 creative people that she's got to keep motivated, and her solution is talent exchanges. So she will take her top 6 people to go work with an executive team at, for example, Starbucks, and then get the top 6 people from their team to come to Hallmark, providing ideas for each other. Wrapping all of this section up, everyone wants innovation to happen, but most people don't break from the path. Ways to increase optionality include find opportunities to escape your routine, give permission, fuel audacity, force collisions, ignite passion, push your limits, and deliberately try to be different. And that wraps up our module. See you in the next lesson.